I think the key is I've gotten
right.
10 years older.
Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Leadership Call. As you can see, I am not Ben Woodward. Ben is actually working at this moment, presenting in front of a group. So we want to encourage that behavior as often as possible. But I do have some things to share with you today on his behalf, on behalf of all of us. So welcome to the Leadership Call. I'm going to share a slide with you. First thing I'd like to do is this is something that was put together by Ben and myself for a presentation that was actually done for NICAN. And I'm not sure if I can, is it Control L to get the thing to go in presentation mode? I guess I'll leave it as that. Oh, maybe I can change that. View, review. Yeah, it's Control L. Okay, that's good. Let me switch to this. A few switches here and there. All right. Okay. So here we go. This graphic is included in the new presentation with reference to a support system. Of course, we want to showcase the fact that when you get into NICAN, you're not alone. That you have a team of people and an entire support system that can help you move from that core circle of influence all the way up and create greater and greater influence. The consequence of that is the advancement in rank. But people need to know, and it's really important that people understand that there is a support system. And I'm not sure how much time you spend discussing the support system, but I wanted to just touch on what it is from a different point of view, or from a more extrapolated point of view. This slide was put together to explain what is the NICAN support system. We haven't used this publicly, but it was a presentation, as I said, that we did with NICAN. So I just want to talk to you through this concept for a second, because there's a core concept driving this. And so let me just start with, I'm going to get some tools here so I can, I don't see my tools for being able to share or point, so I'm not going to do that. All right, so maybe you can see my cursor. I guess you can see my cursor. So essentially, everyone is familiar with the first step. Down here on this graph, you'll notice that the vertical axis of this graph says You Inc. and the horizontal axis says You CEO. I think one of the most important distinctions we need to make early on in our career, in fact, when you first, I'm going to ask everyone to mute out so that you're not interfering with the camera signal, please. If a person just registered with you, I want to encourage you to have a conversation with them to get started. Obviously, you're going to have that conversation. But one of the things you may have not been suggesting to them, that I'm making a point of suggesting to everyone, is that they give their name a business. Their name a business. They give their business a name. You'll remember this now. They give their business a name. Now, why would that be? Consider all the things that you have named. It becomes personal. It becomes separate and apart. It starts to establish an identity in a relationship. Hence, we name the animals, etc. Creates a relationship. And I think it's really, really important that we have a distinction that our business is not us. We are not our business. That our business is a business, and there's a relationship that we have to that business. And in this case, the relationship is you are the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer of that company. I was watching a video, I think it was yesterday, on LinkedIn with Anthony Robbins, and he's got a new business training, I guess he's promoting. But in this video, he talks about if you don't have an exit strategy, then your business is doomed. 87% of all businesses go out of business or just simply don't continue, whereas the balance are sold and handed down. So why is that? He says that because most people don't have an exit strategy. And if you don't have an exit strategy, you're not going to be thinking the way a person would think if they saw their business as something separate and apart from themselves. For instance, if you have an exit strategy, then you know, number one, your business needs to be profitable. Number two, you're going to build that business to a point where at some point you will sell it. And in this case, maybe you'll give it to somebody that they can inherit it, but you'll sell it for a multiple, which means you're always looking to establish the value of the business, which is a very different mindset than I'm a Nikken consultant. You understand? When we personalize it like that, then we no longer have a separate relationship, and our judgment becomes clouded in terms of the choices and the behaviors that lead to the habits that we form in building a Nikken business. What happens is the lines get blurred, and suddenly you're doing Nikken, but you're not necessarily building a business. And I think this is super, super critical. We're so familiar with the subject of doing Nikken, we talk about the things that we need to do, and since we identify ourselves as a Nikken wellness consultant, as a diamond, as a royal diamond, as a platinum, I'm this, I am this, I'm this, then we don't realize that that behavior, that to-do list is just simply activities. And a business, while there may be many activities and those activities can change, for you to have a CEO hat on, you've got to be objective about your business. There has to be a level of objectivity, which we lose when we adopt the idea that I am the business. And that happens on a subconscious level just by simply identifying ourselves as I am this, I am that, I'm a Nikken wellness consultant, and so forth. So create an identity for your business, give it a name. And it doesn't have to be incorporated. I mean, that might come because you've given it a name and you've now started to build value, and at some point in time that value will be something to consider incorporating. But the point is, give it a name. So your vertical axis here represents the achievements of your business, the advancements that your business has qualified for, which is not you, it's your business, which is comprised of what? All the people in it. Everything that's happening completely independent of you. So you see how important it is to disassociate ourselves personally with that. Otherwise, we're limiting our understanding, our scope, the law of attraction to attract into our field of view the components of what could be a successful business. You may have not built a Royal Diamond business, but that doesn't mean you can't build a Royal Diamond business. But if you self-identify as a Royal Diamond, or you can't really on a conscious or even a subconscious level identify with that, I am a Royal Diamond, then because you know other Royal Diamonds and you compare yourself constantly, and you might think, well, I'm not that. I could never be that. Well, and that's the problem. You could build a Royal Diamond business whether you built it or not. You could build the tallest building in any city whether you built it or not, because you can always attract the people, the necessary components to make that a possibility. So this identification thing is huge in terms of helping people make choices and comprehend ideas like the rhythm of the business when it comes to important decisions they need to make in their business, one of which I'm going to focus on later in this call. So we have the red arrows here represent something. The vertical arrow represents an accomplishment, an advancement, and to some degree, some competence, because you don't move forward unless you've acquired some skill, some competence. And so if we consider what are the competencies necessary to get a person going from direct to executive, well, I'll tell you there's not many, because you may think, well, they need to learn how to retail, they need to do, no, they don't. They just need to have a credit card, put their volume on their credit card, they're an executive. It's not a huge degree of competence. But if somebody says to you, I don't have the money, well, then there is a certain competence necessary to find the money, however that is achieved, however that is accomplished. So you could say the first core competence is coming up with what it takes to get started in the business. Now, that's not necessarily an action necessarily, but it is some decisions that are involved in how are you going to engage your business? How are you going to get started in your business? What are the decisions necessary to get started in the business, give yourself a good start, give your company a good start? And I think there was a call a week or so ago with Susan Carver where she really emphasized the point that, you know, if you were the owner of a restaurant, there are certain things that you need to see already, the identification. You own a business, you own a restaurant. What does that restaurant need in order to be functional? That disassociation, the idea that I am not my business, really plays right at the very beginning of this. So let's carry forward here. The next competence is whether you can duplicate yourself as an executive. In other words, this green line on this grid here shows us the ideal curve. What I mean by that is, what is the shortest distance between 2 points? A straight line. What's the shortest distance between direct and royal diamond? A straight line. Is life a straight line? Heck no. We're all over the map on this thing, but we do need some kind of guidance system. We need something, the little things on the side of the bumpers on the side of the bowling alley to sort of keep us in check. And so the straight line represents what would be the ideal scenario. Well, if I was a fully competent executive, then I would ideally be able to duplicate myself. In other words, find other people to enroll and to help them achieve the rank of executive. So that requires a degree of competence. So that horizontal arrow represents the development, our skills that we have developed, the competence that we have developed by virtue of either doing the business or being coached and worked with, mentored by. So that competence is a daily thing. Learning how to create interested people, interested contacts, getting them enrolling them in this process by where they're given an opportunity to evaluate NICAN is a daily occurrence. So there's a daily competence required for that new person to be able to achieve the next level of success. And if they're using the ABC method, which is what this is all about, they are taking that interested person into a process where they're leveraging A's. A's are people, A's are tools, A's are events. And at the conclusion of that information, they make a decision to join and therefore to get started in their business. And then comes that first competence of how do we get started? And that's where that duplication takes over. So an executive who is fully competent is capable of replicating themselves. And so it goes up the chain, let's say, where this graph is concerned. Can you have a silver in rank who is not competent, not fully competent, or fully functional as a silver? Meaning they are a silver in rank, but they're not duplicating their rank. Of course, we have that answer pretty straightforward and obvious. And by the way, it's quite normal, especially if you have a really decent upline. You should be propelled to silver by virtue of the actions that you're doing, and then learn how to be functional as a silver. That's usually the flow in this business, which is kind of unusual because in most corporations, you don't get a rank advancement unless you've demonstrated full competence. Here, you can get a rank advancement and not have full competence. So we need to help our silvers become consciously aware, consciously competent of what are the skills, what is the strategy necessary to help their new executives build a campaign to create the momentum necessary for them to attain the rank of silver within 3 months or less. And we have a beautiful program that Nikan laid out for us in 2018, the incentive program that gives us, for instance, the Entrepreneurs Club is a perfect strategy to execute. So becoming competent at enrolling people and launching people with the focus of that Entrepreneurs Club could be the strategy or the competence, that the core competence that that silver needs to become keenly aware of. So these arrows represent advancements in rank that happen as a consequence of the competence of the individual. And the horizontal arrow represents the skill set or the things that they've acquired in order to be functional, fully functional, and be able to replicate themselves at their rank. That's what this graph represents. And ideally, as we do this, we become more and more and more of a human's being more and living a life in balance. So the ultimate product of Nikan is the resultant, which is humans being more, this expanding, ever expanding 5 pillars of health. Down at the bottom here, we have daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, semi-annual. These are the events that are necessary, which are moments in time in the lifeline of this consultant and then growing their business with activities. There's the daily activities, there's the weekly activities, the monthly, the quarterly, the semi-annual, the annual, and these are highlighted, earmarked by events. Daily, for instance, would be those ABCs, those one-on-ones. Contact and invite, those phone calls, those are events. Weekly would be presentations of some kind, whether they are in a coffee shop or in an in-home or at a public library or something like that. monthly as well. They could be conference calls, they could be special trainings. Usually they're in an event. We talk about the lock-in event, which is this coming Saturday. So, and then the quarterly would be the major tickets, the big regional events that take place, usually organized by higher pin ranks. Notice where that falls. This curve is not perfect. It's supposed to be on a 45, but for graphic effect on this slide, it's slightly slanted. So what would happen is these vertical arrows would line up with each of those rhythms. The quarterly rhythm is the role and the function of a platinum in the region, because essentially what is a platinum? It's a regional leader. A diamond is a national leader. A royal diamond is an international leader. And this is what it really looks like if we looked at someone's business geographically and said, okay, what is their circle of influence? How have they impacted Nikken on the map? And you'll find a silver is somebody who's impacted Nikken on a local level and made a sort of their sphere of influence is local. Gold is more of a municipal, kind of a city or a town. Platinum moves out to the region, diamond to the nation, and royal diamond international. So you'll find, for instance, a diamond has maybe 8 or more % of their business in a country versus in multiple countries. So this is sort of a schematic for the reality of our business, but it also gives us a tool in order to understand there's a relationship between our business and the competencies that we need to develop and pass on if we're going to have a business that grows. And so one of the things that I want to focus on where this particular thing is the weekly events, or excuse me, the event schedule, particularly the bigger events. If you were operating in the mindset of the CEO of a company and your business is going to flourish in 2018, 2019, going onward, what would be the decisions you would be making concerning an event schedule? Your, for instance, participation, your developing an event of some kind, your participation at the bigger events. What role do they play in the development of your company, in the advancement of your company, in the value of your company? I think it's a very important thing to recognize that we all, in order to become effective and good CEOs, need to remind ourselves of what it looks like and feels like to be a leader and to step into the role of leadership. And the best place to do that is where you find other leaders that you aspire to be or like or learn from. A classic example is something I just did. I spent a good chunk of money registering for the Bob Proctor Paradigm Shift workshop in Los Angeles. Does he have them in Toronto? Probably didn't matter. The next one's in Los Angeles. That's where I'm going. And not only am I going, I'm taking my 2 kids with me, my daughters. So this is an investment, not only in me and them, in terms of their capacity, their competence, their conscious awareness that they govern the reality in their life. And so making an investment in your personal development is absolutely crucial to your ability to be a good captain, a CEO of your company, and for you to be a good CEO or captain of your life. So that's one element of why we need to, if we were wearing the right hat on, these choices we would be making from a different point of view, as in a return on investment, rather than how much does this cost me? Even from the very first decision, when somebody's looking at this as a business, the very first decision they have to make really is, what are they going to invest in terms of their time, money, and contacts? Well, if they're thinking about what it's going to cost them, they're thinking wrong. Because let's make an assumption. They're getting in the business to be successful in the business. Why don't we start with that premise? You will succeed because you've made a commitment to succeed. By the way, does everybody make a commitment to succeed? No. People do make a commitment to join. They make a commitment to get started sometimes, but do they make a commitment to succeed, to success? If Alexander Graham Bell didn't make a commitment to succeed, you can see how many things we would be lacking in this world today. So the point is, if they're making a decision to succeed, that means they're going to make money. So does it matter what they invest if they're going to make it all back and some? No. What that determines simply is the speed at which they can grow their business. I'm going to ask all of you who are joining us late to please mute yourselves. Thank you. So, so that ROI, the idea of a return on investment, is the way a person would think if they put the CEO hat on and they were in the company. Hence, it's important to have this conversation early on. I'm going to have to do this myself. Hang on a second, guys. Participants, mute all. Sorry, guys. Okay, back to business. Okay, so if you were the CEO of a successful Niken business, if you were planning on being successful, then what are some of the events that you would have in your calendar for 2018? That these are decisions you would have made already, that they are not decisions you're thinking about making. They're decisions you have made because you're the CEO of this company that you're building. And what are the consequences once we make a decision? We had this conversation a couple weeks ago about how a decision creates the impetus, the law of attraction kicks in and allows us to attract the circumstances that will help that decision become realized. Simply put, the decision focuses our attention on the behavior, on the activities, if it is a committed decision. And so what are some of the decisions you would be making where this agenda is concerned, this rhythm of a business is concerned, if you were committed to success in 2018, or for that matter, going forward as the CEO of your company? Would there be a question as to whether or not you should attend every event? Let's just start with a fundamental question. Would there be a question of whether or not you would attend every event? No, there wouldn't. It would be in your business's best interest that you are at all the events, especially the big ones. But because you physically can't be everywhere all at the same time, we now have to make some choices. So we now need to be managing our event schedule, our budget, etc. So we plan what events are going to be part of our agenda for 2018. And then you will then start to attract, according to that decision, the people who will be there with you, because your mindset won't be whether I'm going or whether I'm not going. Let's say it's a preview that's happening this week on a Thursday night. Should I go? Shouldn't I go? Should I go? Shouldn't I go? Well, if you're not hosting it, there's a pretty good chance that you may or may not go, depending on the weather, depending on what's on that night on TV, depending on whatever, any other things that could come up that could be a distraction. But if you put your CEO hat on and you ask yourself, is this event in the best interest of my company? Yes or no? The answer is always yes. Okay, now we know what the answer is. Now make the decision. You're the CEO. And so if you make the decision that you're going to be at those events for the sake of building your company, for the sake of your company, then you start to act as if somebody is going to be at the event. Then you start to communicate to people as if you're somebody who's going to be at the event. Then you start to attract the people who will be at the event with you. It is a consequence of the choice that you make. But if you're hemming and hawing constantly about the staples, the decisions that have to be made, your plan for 2018 should already be in writing on paper if you're at all interested in doing this business as a business versus doing this as a hobby. So are you in the business of building a business, making money, having success, all the success that is offered here, or are you treating Niken like a hobby because you're doing Niken? You're activity-oriented and not results-oriented. Your plan on paper shows you the truth to that question. So it's a matter of turning on the switch and saying, time to act like the CEO of a company that has worth and value. That's what I'm building. You know, I've invested money in companies before those companies had a product to market. And if the CEO of that company wasn't compelling in their case for success, if they weren't absolutely convinced that not only do they have a product, but this product will make money, would anybody invest? So consider your company. Consider where is your company headed with you as the CEO. Let's start by giving your company a name and then identifying yourself separate and apart from that as the CEO of the company that you're building. Is this company going to be a company of worth? What worth? What are you building? And does it matter that you haven't done it before? No. Does it matter that maybe you've done it and you have to do it again? No. You're building a company. Have some restaurants gone out of business and others come back up? Yes. That's life. That's business. It cycles. Now, make a decision. What's the company that you're building? What's the worth of that company? And you as the CEO, what will you be compensated for having built that company? Not just today, but the value of that company. What will it be worth if somebody wants to buy it from you? Because it has real value. You've built something that's sustainable. You've built something that has equity and residual income, etc. Now, if you're the owner of that company today, the one that you imagine yourself building, the one that you're forging right now, what are the decisions that are appropriate for your company in order for that company to become real, for the realization of that vision, especially where it concerns events and an event schedule? Do you have a rigid event schedule? Do you apply yourself with the idea to produce a result where those events are concerned? In other words, do you have a business map that overlays on your events? What are your targets? What are you hoping to accomplish and expect to achieve by certain datelines, certain dates with destiny? If you consider the Niken incentive, for instance, the Entrepreneurs Club, etc., Paragon Award and so forth, do you have a date with destiny where those are concerned in 2018? If the answer is no, then is it a surprise to you really why maybe you haven't attracted the next Royal Diamond, the person who's going to see this and grow this in spite of you? It shouldn't be a surprise at all. Everything, and I mean everything that happens starts here first. Everything and anything that happens first here before it manifests. So it's really important that we take this concept that we're building a business, that we are not our business, and we start making decisions on behalf of that business that are in the best interests of growing that company of yours. So some events that are coming up, for instance, the event in Orlando, shouldn't be a question, am I going? Of course you're going. Make the decision. Is it not in the best interest of your business to make that decision now or even sooner? Every delay in that decision is a delay in attracting the people who are going to be there with you. You lose the impact of compounding. We go back to the earlier slide. There it is. That earlier slide says compound, leverage and compound. What are we compounding? We are compounding every one of the decisions that we're making. The point is to duplicate. Duplicate what? The choices we're making. And that will subsequently create the results that we're creating. Anyway, that's sort of what I wanted to focus on today. I think we're almost up with time. And maybe I'll leave the last minute here. I guess, what is it? Oh, it is just 1 minute for a wrap up here. So thanks for joining us. But I hope that this message is resounding for you and you share this message with other people in your business that you feel need to get that idea. I think it's important we appreciate that our role as leaders in Niken is to help people become good CEOs. If we're going to move from the left-hand side, the cash flow quadrants of Robert Kiyosaki, from the employee and small business owner mentality to the right-hand side, we've got to develop our competence. We've got to develop our skill set as a CEO. We've got to understand that a good CEO surrounds themselves with people who are even more competent, even more capable, can fill in the gaps of their business so that their business, their company can flourish. A good CEO asks the question, does this person contribute? Can this person contribute to building this company, to making this vision a reality? Ask yourself if you're thinking like a CEO or an employee. Question that whenever it comes to a decision. Put the hat on. Physically, make the motion like I'm putting my CEO hat on, because then you will switch into that person and your choices will be much better for your business. Well, that's all I have for you, everyone. Thank you for joining me, and we will see you on the Niken Highway at one of the next big events. Cheers.
Thanks, Mike.